What's up, Louis? How are you, bro?
Hey, Arnoldo, super happy to be here, man. Really happy that we won the Clasico. So it's always a great week after the Clasico when you win.
Yeah, man, I've been smiling since Saturday night and at all moments of the day, seeing all the content on Twitter and other social media like Facebook. It's been cool, man. I had a really good time watching that game, so I'm sure you did too. So I want to hear everything you thought about this game. So let's just dive right into it, man. What
Let's
are
do it.
some initial thoughts that you had about the Clasico this year? Clasico 127.
So I thought Buse was going to park the bus on us, and it pretty much ended up being that way that they sat back, defended. They were waiting for a mistake, and I was really proud of Piojo and the boys because they never got frustrated during the game. It was a tough game because defensively Rayados is really solid, but I felt like we were pushing ahead. We were trying to score. We were trying to generate chances, and we never let the clock get to us, get frustrated. And I was really happy to see that eventually we broke through. So I think it was one of the smartest games I've seen during the Piojo era. Normally in the past, I think we would have gotten a little frustrated that we couldn't score or we couldn't generate enough chances. And this time around, I felt everybody was on the same page. Everybody was patient, knowing that eventually we'd have a shot.
Yeah, and I totally agree with you. And I feel like that's now like been a few games that has continued for the players to be a lot more comfortable in the field. And that's a great point that you make because the entire time I felt, and I'm sure you felt, and every fan felt in that stadium that Tigres was bound to score. And you can tell the comfortability of the passing, like even like the switches that they did at times. Like they're always looking forward, 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 forward. So it's almost like they know that eventually a goal is going to come out, either Gignac brilliance or like he did in this game, or any of the offensive players who have been on a roll lately, man. I mean, our attack is flourishing.
I think it took quite a long time for Piojo to really get his system ingrained in the players. But I think you're finally seeing it where they understand how Piojo wants to play and they're doing it. In the past, you've had players wanting to revert back to Tuca ball, but I think this is a great game that showed you that Piojo has already ingrained it in them. They already know what they need to do. They're pressing higher. They're not sitting back or when they lose the ball trying to move back in the pitch. They're pressing high, they're recovering high, which lets us continue to generate chances, put pressure on the opponent. So I think we're playing just the way Piojo wants us now.
Yeah, and some players have a lot to do with that. I think that we have a lot of players in great form, and one of them finally gets his reward for the last season, the championship run he had with Atlas, and then this season with us, Jesus Angulo, man. Like he has, I've seen a lot of like comments and like opinions about him, and like one of the things that I saw that I really liked and totally made sense for me was he has la garra de Torres Nilo and La Técnica de Hugo Ayala. And I was like, man, like so true. Like this guy is comfortable with the ball. At times, when he's had the ball in the back, I was like, hey, man, like, what are you doing? You're holding on to the ball too much, dribbling with it. But he's pretty comfortable with it. And I think that he's been a really important piece to give us that defensive stability. And, with Piojo ingraining the system that he desires has allowed us to, be on this successful run over the last 7 games now.
Yeah, honestly, I think Angulo's been the best pickup that we had this season. Um, the chemistry he has with Aquino is just perfection. Uh, they're both very solid defensively. And if you looked at this game, nobody got past them.
Mm-mm.
I mean, Campbell tried, he failed, and he ended up switching to the other wing to try to avoid Angulo. But the guy he's just a wall back there. And the way he plays with Aquino, he lets Aquino move up the pitch because Aquino knows he's got a guy behind him that's able to cover him. So I think that's been a solid pickup for us because we needed that defensively. We needed somebody that could give us confidence in the back.
Yeah, and he's athletic, and so he, it adds all to what we're trying to do with the system, pushing everybody forward. And so I wanted to talk to you a little bit about that. With the amount of times that Tigres was pushing forward, did you expect a goal like Gignac had? Did you? Because one of the things that like I always look at, how the goal is scored, like how the buildup, happens, and like the development of the passing and whatnot. And I was not expecting un golazo to start, you know, the el ambiente in el Volcán, bro. So
Well, if you look at that play, man, I mean, that's just Piojo's system. They weren't sitting back waiting for Rayados to attack. Rayados is trying to play out the back, and immediately we've got pressure. So uh, when the ball went to, I think it was Celso Ortiz, we immediately had a guy on him that didn't let him turn. So he had to one touch it, and Tovan was able to recover. He gets it to Quinones. Quinones one touched it to Gignac, and you know, anytime Gignac gets the ball and right outside the box in zone 14, he's just lethal, man. And obviously that goal came out of nowhere, and we were all super surprised. But that's just vintage Gignac, man. I mean, he's just amazing in that zone. And even Andrada, I think, was expecting him to shoot it on the other end to the far post, and he goes near post on it with just a laser. So I think in a lot of ways, I think that's the Piojo system there coming into play and allowing Gignac to have more chances at shots like that.
Yeah, create something out of nothing, you know, high pressure, recovering the ball fast on their end or on their field. So yeah, that was really good. And then we also had Florian's, I don't know if it was a golazo or a mistake of a cross, man. I don't know. I've seen multiple videos. What do you think? Do you think he meant to do that?
Well, that's the big controversy, right, on Twitter and everywhere else. Some people say it was just a chiripa goal, you know, just a coincidence that he got it in there. But honestly, I think he went for it, man. I think he meant to use his vision to move the goalie up. You know, he even kind of pointed to the spot, and he realized as soon as Andrade pushed up just a little bit, he was going to have that angle to be able to shoot it. I think he went for it. I mean, it's hard to prove it, and he's really only he knows what he wanted to do, right?
Correct.
But in my mind, I think he saw the opportunity, he took it. Otherwise, if that's a miss, I mean, he missed that by what, 18 yards? I mean, it's hard for a guy who's been so solid and so accurate on crosses with very little pressure on him to miss it by 18 yards. So I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and say he wanted that.
And you know, the beautiful part about all that too was like in the press conference, Piojo was like, we practiced that during the week. I love that. I was like, I'm here for it, man. You know, give that player all the hype he needs.
Yeah, and I was really happy to hear Piojo say that, because that tells me that they're really studying film. And at the end of the day, when you've got two evenly matched teams with a lot of talent on the pitch, it's the really fine details that do it. So if it is true what Piojo's saying, that they did study up, that they realized that Andrada tends to want to push up in situations like that, then that tells you that they're doing their homework, that they're studying film, and they're really studying the opponent to get a tiny little bit of an edge on their opponents.
And that, you know, demonstrated when he went to go watch the Rayados game versus Juarez at the BBVA stadium. So I think that's one of, you know, moving on to something I wanted to talk to you. I don't know if you have any more thoughts about the Clasico, but I wanted to talk to you about, you know, the team form. Like, you know, what do you think about, you know, obviously with this game and the run that they've been on prior to this game, you know, we had the tie, but what do you think of the team? It's probably the midway point. We have one game to make up against Pachuca from the Querétaro and Atlas incident at the stadium. But I wanted to talk to you. Like, where do you see the team going? What do you think so far of Piojo's second season establishing his system? Thoughts?
Well, we're right where we want to be, and I think we're starting to get separation from, you know, anybody from 4 down. We're starting to get a good size separation, which is gonna basically let us finish near the top. I don't see any reason why we can't do 40 plus points this season. I mean, it's right there for us. We've got a fairly easy schedule. We've got a couple easy opponents coming up. Pachuca is going to be one of the biggest tests, but I think we should be pretty close to finishing at the top of the standings. So when's the last time we had a season like that? Maybe 2017. So I think Piojo has us right where we want to be, and we got a head-to-head match against Pachuca. So if we win that, it's a possibility we might finish at the top.
Yeah, and so now I think I asked you this question before. You think this is a starting 11 for sure now? This is it?
Yeah, I think so. I like the chemistry everybody has on the pitch. Um, I still don't mind seeing Wayala coming in, getting some minutes, because he's a veteran that knows how to play in high pressure situations. But I do like the way the team looked against Rayados, and I think we've got a really good mix of experience and younger players that have a lot of high energy. So I don't see why we would mix that up. We've got the subs that we need coming in around the 60th minute, so they give us a solid 30 minutes of great play, like Soteldo and Cordova, Charlie Gonzalez. So I think that's going to be the starting 11 he's going to use moving forward.
So, you mentioned there, the subs, and one of the subs who has not been used as of late, and you would think that we would use him, Nico. Do you think that, Piojo is just that confident in, Quiñones and Florian up top that he doesn't find any space for, because the first sub off the bench is Charlie Gonzalez, and that's not to take out Gignac, it's to help Gignac have some more freedom so Gignac can finish off teams with the spaces that Charlie opens up. So what do you think about Nico? Does he have a role moving forward the rest of the season? Because every attacker that we have on that bench is great, and having him lead the league in scoring last year time with Nico Ibanez, it's a little weird, man. It's a little weird.
I think you have to find some room for him. I don't know if there's locker room drama going on there. I don't know if Diente Lopez is a little upset that he's not getting enough playing time, or I don't know if he feels disrespected. It could be, I'm just speculating, but a talent like that, you have to find room for him. So I think Piojo, it would be a huge mistake to relegate him to the bench, not give him playing time, because that's a guy that can come in and change the game. If he's on one of those nights where he's just on fire, he could easily come in and score a hat trick in 30 minutes. He's that good. He's that talented. So for Piojo not to give him playing time, I think would be just a huge mistake. I think he's a guy that you have to give him minutes, at least 20 to 30 per game, and you have to find a way to bring him in. Honestly, I would rather see him sub in for Tovan than Cordova. I don't feel like we're getting a lot out of Cordova this season.
No,
And
and it's
so
gonna take a bit. I think it's gonna take a bit. Bigon's just in great form, man. I mean, the amount of space that Bigon opens up for Gignac by just moving around, being so mobile on the field, and looking to be like a pass in between lines when they're attacking. I don't think Cordova does that. He doesn't have that type of movement. He doesn't have the box to box that we've talked about in the past before. So I don't think he contributes much this season. It's a great sub to bring, on paper for what he represents and what he's done on the national team with the Olímpico and then America. But other than that, I think that we're wasting a sub there. I think Nico should be the sub that should be coming in, even at times over Charlie Gonzalez, depending on the game that shows itself or the opponent that we're playing.
yeah, with Cordova, the issue I find with him is that he's not really a box to box guy. He doesn't have the energy that Vigon has to get up and down the pitch. And if you put him on the wing, he just doesn't seem to have enough speed to be good on the one-on-ones against the fullbacks. So I just don't see where he fits into our system. And every time he's come in, I feel like our energy level just drops. I felt that in the Clasico a little bit, and I just honestly I think you just bring more firepower with Nico instead of Cordova.
And you can see like his body language. He's like desperate to like get on the ball, and like if he gets the ball, he looks like he's shaky with it, like doesn't really look confident. And I think that it's getting to him, man. Like, I mean, I hope that he makes it out of that slump, because it's been a long slump. But because it would contribute a lot to help, with the midfield and distribution of minutes. But I think I'm with you, and we got to find a way to bring Nico and help contribute the rest of the way, because we're gonna need him, man. I think that both of you and I have agreed that the best defense that we have moving forward is to score a lot of goals and make sure that we don't make mistakes and lose focus at the end of games or halves.
Definitely. And I think Piojo will find a way to give him some time. I think he's smart enough to realize come Liguilla, we're gonna need another guy that can come in and score. You never know. I mean, you hope nothing ever happens, but what if Charlie Gonzalez gets injured? What if Gignac gets injured?
Mhm.
Then you have to rely on a guy. And if you haven't given him any minutes, then he's gonna be rusty coming off the bench. So you want to keep him active.
Absolutely. So, we've been talking about the success of the team and the form of the players. So, since like I mentioned, we were somewhat at the midpoint of the season. What player has stood out, or players that have stood out in this season that either took a big jump with Piojo on his in his second season, or from the get go this season? What do you think a player that has been really important for you from your point of view?
And that's a tough question because I think a lot of players have improved under the Piojo system. Quiñones looks better. Gignac even looks better. Charlie Gonzalez is much improved. Tovan is night and day from last season. So we've got a ton of players, but I'm still leaning on Angulo. I think from day one to now, he's been the guy that's been super consistent. I can't think of more than just one or two errors that he's made all season. He's been that solid, and honestly, I think he's made Aquino better. Aquino was already playing well under Piojo with that 5-man back line and that wing back role, but now that Angulo's here, I feel like Aquino has improved a ton, and it's because he's got that partnership with Angulo. So I would give the edge to Angulo out of everybody, but we do have at least 4 or 5 players that are playing really well right now. Not to mention, Carioca and Pizarro, who are always solid.
Yeah, and those to me have been the most important. Angulo has surprised me with the amount of leadership and skill that he has on the ball and security that he gives us on the left side. And you mentioned the partnership with Aquino has been great. But to me, man, Carioca, we've talked about it briefly when we started recording on this little journey or project. Carioca was a guy that they were looking to move prior to the start of the season, and obviously for the reasons of he's more of a pausing the game, not playing as direct as Piojo wants Tigres to play. So to me, him and his ability to now not only recover the ball with a lot more intensity, because we knew Carioca can recover balls when he played with Tuca, but it was different. It was more interceptions, anticipation of plays. Now he's pressuring the ball with a lot of intensity, and the way that he's able to shift defender, or shift the way that Tigres plays from one side to the other with just the turn of his body without doing even too much. He gets rid of a lot of players and creates space. So I think that he has been a player that stood out to me. And Pizarro to me did what he was doing with Tuca, sliding at times on that third center back spot. But now Pizarro is doing, and more consistently now, is being all over the field, being a box to box, while also helping that defense back there. So those two guys to me have been the most important players. But like you said, there's a lot of guys that have improved. Obviously Angulo, Quiñones, Gignac, we mentioned and talked about, Florian, Bigon, even, and we got Nahuel. So we're stacked, man. We're stacked, and that makes me happy. We're putting on, great games with the opponents that we're playing.
One thing about Carioca that I really love is that he's turned into our little quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of play goes through him, and what better guy to have the ball go through than a guy who's so good at controlling it and distributing. Great dribbler. I mean, he's a complete player. He
Yeah.
can defend, but he's also able to take on guys, dribble. He's really smart about distributing the ball. So, I mean, he's one of those guys that I feel like he was great under Tuca, but I think he's added another dimension under Piojo
Mm-hmm.
because he's able to just push up and do what he wants to do in the midfield.
You, especially talking about pushing up, bro, you had something to show people.
Oh yeah, so I got this screenshot, and basically this is the way Piojo wants to play, man. I mean, he wants the team to be between midfield and the 18-yard box. And so you can see it in the screenshot. You've got at least 4 different lines there. The center backs are right behind midfield. And then you've got Carioca being in the middle there, the central midfielder being the distributor. and you see how many options he's got because the spacing is perfect. Like you look at the space between players, it's not more than 10 yards. So he's got a ton of options. He could play behind the center backs with Gignac. He can play to the wings. He's got Bigon, who's moving all over the place. And then he's got Aquino and Dueñas next to him. So this is the way Piojo wants to play. He wants to keep the entire opponent in their half and be able to just apply pressure the entire game. And I think this is perfect for what Piojo wants to do. And you saw it against Rayados, where they had this shape almost for 80 minutes during the game. Rayados didn't generate a whole lot of chances. I think Nahuel Guzman had 2 saves. And the biggest shot was the Sebastian Vegas shot around the 55th minute or so.
Mhm.
So, if we can keep this shape, Piojo is going to be super happy, and we're going to have a ton of chances to generate and be across. So I was super happy to see this in a huge chunk of the game, because anytime we can get Quiñones and Tovan participating and Gignac moving, and then Bigon having space behind Gignac, man, if we can just be accurate on our crosses, we're gonna have a ton of chances, especially come Liguilla. So I think Piojo looked at the film and he's probably pretty proud of the guys.
Yeah, I totally agree. It made me remember that for you to share with people when you said quarterback, because I remember Carioca distributing the ball. That's great, man. That was a great screenshot. I love that. It definitely shows a lot of what Tigres is this season that we hadn't seen before. And, just the dynamic that the team has now in playing is it's cool to watch, because not only did we already know that the team had a lot of skill on this roster and previous rosters with Tuca, but now they're showing the skill that we've been waiting to see, and the intensity, the dynamic, the pressuring, all of the high flying, scoring Tigres that we have now.
It's really encouraging to watch this, because if you look at the Rayados game, we didn't have a perfect game. It wasn't perfect. We had a lot of good moments, but it wasn't perfect, and we still won 2-0. So imagine if they just step it up a little bit, correct some of those errors, these games could turn into 3-0, 4-1 games. And so I'm really proud of the way we're playing. I think we're playing by memory, de memoria, as they say in Spanish. So I think we're right where we want to be.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. So that kind of wraps it up with some of the things that we wanted to talk about. Tomorrow, Wednesday, Tigres plays here in Houston against Club America. I'm going to be there. I'm going to take hopefully a lot of photos, a lot of videos, and see what the Raza's up to right before the game. And
I'll be there too, so you'll see me there.
Oh, are you?
Yeah, I'm making the trip, so
okay, cool. Then I did not know that. I'll definitely be hitting you up tomorrow and see what's up and how's everything when you get to the game.
Let's do it, man. Let's do it.
Awesome, man. Thank you for your time once again. And Tigres plays Tijuana on April the 3rd. That's what we got next.
Should be a great game, and thanks for having me. Arnoldo, it's always a great time talking to you about Tigres.
Absolutely. Thank you, brother.